Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Carla from MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And finally, we're back. And we're not only back, we're on YouTube too. So, guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have it scrolling across. And if you put comments in and I see them, I can also bring them up and put them up here. So I am really happy to be back. Allison will be with us again. I'm not sure when. She's dealing with a family issue, and she's also in a movie this week. But she should be coming back very, very soon. And we're all excited just to be back and to be talking again. And I know there's a war raging throughout the world. And if you really think about it, in our own bodies, there's a war against, being healthy, being happy. It's our choice whether we want to be happy or if we want to be sad. It's our choice. In my mind, everything begins in our minds and grows from our minds. So if we're using our minds in a positive manner, we're going to go in that manner. And today I have our old Thursday panel back. I have Jeff Pulver, which you guys all know, and I have Cameron Rizvi. And Cameron, I would like you to begin by speaking about peace and what you feel peace is within you.
Thank you very much, Carla, for giving me this opportunity. I think peace is a subject dear to everyone's heart on this planet. It is something that fills you with calm and tranquility and a sense of connection with everything around you. It focuses you. It, flourishes love and understanding. It's a condition that we would all love to see. And around us, it will be if it is also within us. And whatever we are experiencing in our world today, in the external world, is really the inner war that is waging in all of us. And inner war is something that you're all losers. I mean, in a war, no one wins. I mean, it's a very sad state of affairs, and it becomes inevitable when logic surrenders, when reason surrenders, when patience runs out, when intolerance takes the front stage and egos become huge, and our prejudices become defined. And that is when we end up using our arms and legs and weaponry and go into heinous conduct, which really serves no one any good. But history is full of wars. History is full of wars, and it just goes to show that human beings are imperfect beings. We are all imperfect. And I feel that this imperfection sometimes plays out in the form of art and creativity, and unfortunately at times in the shape of war and tragedy and heartbreaks. No one singly can be blamed for it. It is a human condition, not a pleasant one, but it helps us appreciate the value of peace. And the definition that I have for peace, which I gained from some passage I read in a book 20 years ago, and I can't even remember the author, I'm sorry, but I'm sure the idea that he shared was for all of us. And it resonates with me. I think about it, and I feel it's a good talking point, which is that absence of conflict is not peace. It is the presence of justice. And I find that we live in a very unjust world. The world is very unjust. And there are hidden agendas. There are a lot of other parameters. I mean, we talk of news and fake news, etc. Yes, sure. But I've seen this play out in communities. I've seen it in companies. I've seen it. I mean, there is a lot of exploitation. and a lot of misuse of knowledge. And greed tends to drive a lot of things. I mean, so in a sense, it is our avarice, our greed that fuels the stupid ambitions that we end up having. And those ambitions are at the cost of so many. So when there is an injustice and it is screaming at you, the end product is what we witness around us. So yes, conflict is a healthy sign. Honest people, differences of opinion, they sit across the table, they fight it out, they argue, but with open minds. And when we don't have the intent, then I'm afraid the end is tragic. And that's what we are witnessing in many parts of the world today.
Now, do you think that world peace has something to do with our own mindsets?
Definitely.
Do we actually, okay.
Definitely. Oh, yes. I would say that it stems from within us. And what plays out on the global stage is our individual, collective battles and wars that we are fighting within ourselves. And it just plays out on a big stage. And thousands and thousands of lives are lost as a result. Yes, but it starts from within each one of us. Definitely.
And if that is true, what you just said, it starts from within. I'm not forgetting you, Jeff. I'm going to get back to you in a moment. If it starts from within, what can we do ourselves to create the peace that is needed in the world?
My perspective, very simply, acceptance of what is, rather than arguing with it or fighting. Accept that something is happening, recognize it, understand it, learn from it. If we are not accepting a phenomena, then you're not learning from it. And if you're not learning from it, you're not growing. You're not building your capability to address it effectively and in an inspiring fashion. So humility, surrender, acceptance is a very necessary condition. But our egos don't let us do that.
You have any tips to help our egos?
I'm hoping Jeff is going to shed some light on it, because I'm right now, my files are shut. I don't know, but I'd love to hear from you and Jeff as in terms of how to address this.
You're muted.
Carla, you're muted.
We can't hear you, Carla.
You are unmuted. I unmuted you. Let me unmute you. We're not used to doing it this way, folks.
Oh, thank you. So peace. Yeah, peace within, peace without, world peace, galactic peace, personal peace. There's lots of pieces here. I think the central issue is how we look at ourselves. And if you have peace with yourself, you might find peace with others, both individually, collectively, galactically. And that, life for me is all about vibration, energy, and frequency. And you'll find that when you have conflict with loved ones or not so loved ones, it's because you're not vibing on the same frequency, that you don't find that harmony. And if you want to get to a world of peace, love, and understanding, we need to find a common frequency to connect on, and make sure our vibrations are on the higher side of that. And then we'll have an opportunity to actually create meaningful change, or at least meaningful connections. There's too much not spoken words as opposed to spoken words. And if conflict is inevitable because of the human experience, so be it. But it doesn't mean that you have to be in conflict. It just means that, it is inevitable. But so is peace, right? And I think that if you allow yourself to ascend to a higher frequency, you can actually be in a world where we are working together as one. It should not take the last 14, 15 months have showcased how the world can work together to solve a global crisis. The only reason why I think you start to see regional fights happen right now is because, quote unquote, going back to normal means going back to war, going back to fighting, going back to things we are used to. Because peace, love, and understanding is a heaviness to it. John Lennon would say, all we are saying is give peace a chance, as if that's an easy thing. But when you're living in the age of Aquarius, and we can bring together like-minded people, and maybe one day like-minded leadership of the world, we can agree on things. We can agree to disagree. It doesn't have to lead to anything bad. We don't have to threaten. We can find paths, but it requires vibration, energy, and frequency to be in line. And when we fall out of line of that, we may be falling out of line with ourselves. And certainly that we drop those communication challenges, because peace, love, and understanding is nice. Effective communication is core. Sometimes, as you know, we can communicate with friends and loved ones without saying a word, simply by sharing that same energy. And why is that? Because we're vibing on the same energy space. Because trust me, if you're with someone who's not on your frequency, you will not be communicating in a very happy way. In our life, there always will be people who argue with us. I think it's inevitable. We will always find people who argue. It doesn't mean they disagree with us. It just sometimes some people are conundrums and they just like to argue. That's their personality. They certainly don't want to be at war. And other people are act without thinking, right? And we get into a lot of precarious situations when people act first, think later. And so from a high level, low level, we can all agree to disagree. We can all agree to agree, but the actions speak much louder than any words. And it's, of course, intention and purpose. So if we come together as one with the intention to come together, we will. If we allow ourselves to tune in to the energy of those around us, we will. Some of us may need to be more open so that it can just happen organically. Some of us may have to set the intention. I will tune in. I am open to listening. I need help. I want to tune in. I personally believe we carry with ourselves our past, present, and future, and all we have is the now. We're in that now moment where we are our own universe too. So if we all represent our universes, you'd think that we could have galactic peace. We can, but we need to make an effort to do so. And so on the positive side, there's hope, because I believe that as a planet, we can, for the most part, get together and save lives where we have no borders, where we work toward a common cause. And for the most part, we've seen that happen. And it's been a miracle of sorts. The amount of collaboration, both public and non-public, to help the spreading of a pandemic has been miraculous. Something which, sure, 100 years ago was tackled, but was tackled differently. Here, science ruled. And it was the absolute collaboration of scientists from around the world being able to be connected and do work. I mean, more or less, COVID was solved in over a weekend. It took a year to roll it out, but people were able to collaborate over one weekend, and they more or less figured out stuff, tweaking it, of course. But so that was the easy part. The harder part was just getting through the bureaucracies that we've created so that it's safe. And if we could take on such global issues together as one, because it seemed that was the common denominator that brought everyone together, so we could work on that. It did not matter who we were, where we were, that happened. And now that we're in America, for example, we may be a country at peace, but there's certainly lots of outbursts of things that happen around here that I'm not proud of. And a lot of people who are getting hurt for no reasons. Why? Because we're going back to normal life. And I think that that's not only here, but I see it because I see it in the news. And I think globally, regionally, we have certain things which, if we want to get through conflict, we can do our best. Again, it's the intention. So it's also true, and I don't really do politics, but I believe that if people want to be peaceful, they can be. But it's sometimes our actions that we're sometimes where we live, where we have to deal with where we're living, and we're not always in control of where that is. So I only can speak of the universe of Jeff, that I'm a peaceful universe. I come in peace. I like to harmonize with others who like to share a high vibration and frequency, where we could have galactic travel between universes. There may not be everyone here may not share those same values. So we may not be able to have portals between every universe, but I like to believe, at least individually as one, we could come in peace, stay in peace, and do magical things because we cooperate and we work together with the intention and purpose of doing so. That is all.
Now, Jeff, you mentioned frequencies. The normal person may not understand what you mean when you say frequency and everyone being on the same frequency. I do believe we have the breath that we all breathe and we share it, and yet we forget that is what brings us, that gives us life and sustains us life. How can we help people? What do you mean by frequencies, and how can we help people get to an understanding that we may appear to be different, but we are very much the same?
Well, let's just say that when we look at light, there's a spectrum of Roy G. Biv, and when you look at the sunrise or sunset, you can there's a moment in time when you could see the entire light spectrum in front of us. Each one of those colors are at a different frequency. And when you're listening to somebody, young kids can actually hear a dog whistle. Older adults generally cannot. So there's a frequency range of our ears. There's a frequency range of our eyes. Some people who communicate with the paranormal have the ability to tune into frequencies that others cannot. Energetically, everything is there for us to tune into if we want to, if we allow ourselves to. When we talk about, if you listen to the sound of healing glass, that has a way of enhancing our ability to connect because it raises our frequency and it provides us with a sound that opens us up to perhaps relax us to be more open to connect. So life is all about frequency. When you watch television, when you listen to the radio, though when people are not using the internet to do so, there are frequencies that are being broadcast upon, very rudimentary to how we communicate. So in fact, our bodies actually vibrate at a certain vibration, and you could actually tune to that vibration literally. I mean, you could literally see. Don't forget, we're on a planet that I think that as our solar system is traveling through the Milky Way at 500,000 miles per minute or something, some ridiculously fast movement. But we don't notice that, right? Because that's our normal. So the fact that we're moving as a solar system through space and time, that's our normal. So we don't see that. We may notice that when we're in a car or maybe you're on an airplane and you're traveling at past the speed of sound. Those are things we notice because you get sonic booms. The point here is that everything is about frequency. Everything is about vibration. So how do we raise it? The first thing, there are lots of exercises you can do. Through meditation, you can connect. Meditation's probably I won't say the easiest, but the easiest to understand. That when you bring yourself into yourself and you start to visualize, you can manifest almost anything. I believe in quantum physics. I believe in quantum mechanics. I believe we can really do anything we want to. And this is why I'm careful what I wish for. So to answer your question, there are exercises people can do to get themselves more in tune with their body, their mind, and their soul. And once they've gone through those exercises, maybe for the very first time, I mean, understand, energy and how things are. If people were to take their hands and rub like maybe a few millimeters apart, move their hands together, or for those who can't do that, just rub their hands for 15 seconds and then pull their hands apart, but do it for 15 seconds. And then pull their hands apart, but move their hands side to side. That's your energy. What you're feeling is that energy field around you. And as you get good with managing energy, you can actually manage the space totally around you, and it extends really from us, from person to person across the world. Some of us can tune into that, right? But it starts with first feeling your energy. And if you ever deal with Reiki healers or other people who deal with all sorts of energy healing, that's what they're tuning into. That's what they're actually manipulating and moving. So we can do all this. It's not rocket science, but it is a science. And but we need our minds need to cooperate, and we need to connect. And then it purely is magic. And we could achieve a higher level of enlightenment, and perhaps through that, higher goals can be attained.
Not used to this mic thing that we have to do here. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I want to ask Cameron also, how can we begin to help people understand it and begin to have more people experience that silence within that everyone has. Everyone has a fountain of joy within. And as people begin to realize that, I believe all this conflict can be dissolved because we'll accept that we are a little different. I mean, I'm not you, Jeff, and I'm not Cameron. And we have our different ways of thinking now, obviously. And because of that, that's what makes the world beautiful. We're like a garden, and we're each a different flower. And even if we were all roses, we're not exactly alike. Cameron, would you like to comment? And then we'll go to Jeff.
Thank you, Carla. Jeff did an exercise, and I'd like to start with an exercise in answer to your question. What can we do to have a more peaceful world within ourselves and around us? So I would like you to close your hands into a fist. Yes, please. And those watching are also requested to do the same. Now, in this state, I want you to clap. In this state, just clap as though you are wanting to applaud someone. Now, I know when doing this, it is slightly painful because the knuckles hit each other, and it's really, and there's no sound. And it's hurting. Okay. Now, likewise, if we just slowly open our hands and try to clap, not only is there sound, there's warmth and there is connection. So this simple message of openness, a lot of us are like this inside, very closed, because we are in a shell, we are insecure, we feel threatened, and we are afraid, and we go into this state. And then when we try to connect or communicate, and just now Jeff spoke about effective communication, it comes from an open heart, a desire to want good for the other. And that intent of wanting good for the other is so crucial. And you can only do that when you're open in this way. And when you're open, you can do so much, because you'll notice when you come with your hands like this, it is a sign of trust, openness. But if I keep myself closed in this fashion, then it is not building a bridge between two people or two communities. And I feel that it is our living in a shell, in a fear, which is often founded on past experiences and reinforced. And those anxieties and fears and traumas that have scarred us from in the past tend to continue unless we go for some healing. And I think mental health has a lot to do with this too. And I must say that there are people out there who are very well-meaning, well-intentioned, but have been damaged so badly through rough experiences that they've had, through no fault of their own necessarily. They just happen to be at a place at a time, and it happened. And as a result, that travels into time. And I think here understanding is required, a lot of understanding, patience, because if we don't reason and listen and stop judging, we judge a lot. Um, and I'm seeing, whenever there's a conflict, you see two or three sides emerge, one side ranting against the other. Now, that is a very reactive mode that human beings acquire. And I find that it is patently wrong just to be on taking sides. It's not about taking sides. It's about understanding what the hell is going on. And if you get drowned in the noise of media, whether it's social or mainstream media, you end up being forced into one camp or the other camp. And as a result, what you're simply doing is, in fact, making this antagonistic environment even more antagonistic. One has to take a pause and not be seduced by easy labels, but must go through this trouble of finding out, hey, what is really, really happening? Because after all, human beings are suffering. It's not one group or another. It is human beings. And if we don't have pain for the other, regardless of our background or ethnicity, I think then we're being very inhuman. And where is that inhumanity stemming from? It's stemming from ignorance. And where is that ignorance coming from? And that, gives compassion, space. And I don't know if ever we can enjoy real peace, enduring peace, without compassion and without patience, without listening. And yes, lives will be lost. That is the unfortunate nature of life. We were born to die. We will die, all of us. I hope we all die a happy death and a meaningful death. I just hope that none of us cause grief to others before we leave. In fact, we leave a good thought and then we go. I think that is the way to go. So like we came, we will go. Death is not such a bad thing. It happens. However, how we go, under what circumstances we go, and what we leave behind, I think, is what's going to fuel the peace that we want.
Is there something in your mind that we can do to help us remember the diversity and how we are also very, very similar? Let's face it, I'm Jewish American, you're Pakistani Muslim. Muslim. Jeff is also Jewish, but I've never met any of you in person. And yet we have been able to create an alliance where we can come together once a week and speak and have a conversation without any real big conflicts. So what is your technique that allows that to happen for you, Conrad?
My technique,
and I'm going to ask you too, Jeff. You're not forgotten.
And before Jeff, I'm glad that this time I'm getting the first round to go. My technique is simple, Carla. The one that I've adopted since 2002 is this. Every person walking this planet, walking on this planet, is the child of his or her mother. Every person on this planet is the child of his or her mother. I don't know about the father, but mother I definitely know. because there can be a question mark as to who fathered the child, but mother knows her child. And because we are all coming from the wombs of our mothers, crying, in a state where we are completely helpless, dependent, and the love of a mother, the care of a mother is unbeatable on this planet. I mean, devotion, pain, suffering, sacrifice, these words are best illustrated in the simple process of childbirth. So humanity comes from this process. No mother has taught his or her child to go and kill another. No mother teaches a child ever to go and deprive others of their right. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. It is just this reality that brings us as one. We are all children of our parents, of our mothers in particular. Of course, fathers have a role. I do not want to diminish their role, but no one can ever deny that. And this is universal from Adam to now. And because we all were born in certain circumstances, we are different. And it's to celebrate that, to learn from each other. And that's about it. The battle is not between Jews, Christians, and Muslims and Hindus. The battle is between good and evil. And good and evil is between us, within us, each of us, in all the groups. I mean, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's racism, whether it's interreligious conflict, whether it is sectarianism, whatever color you want to give it, communism, socialism, the rich and the poor, it's not about the rich and the poor. It's not about the black and the white. It's not about the ethnicities. It's not about Christians and Muslims. It's not about Muslims and Jews. It's about good and evil, which is lurking in all of us. And these are labels that are very easy to be seduced by. The truth of the matter is we have to look within ourselves and activate the good in us. And no group is free from these two dimensions, yin and yang. That's what it is. It's the simple minds that fall for flags, for identities, for labels, for brands. It's the foolish who do that.
Very nicely said. I agree wholeheartedly. I just want to figure out, and I really believe that everyone has the ability to make that connection. And for some reason, people have forgotten it. And that is why we're on the planet, is to come back to that understanding and move forward knowing that we are all connected. And Jeff, you haven't spoken for a while. You want to say something? You're not forgotten.
Okay. At the core of this, I think love is the answer. That it's love actually is what will unite. And we have to, I do think we need to believe in love and extend ourselves through love and use that as a connective point. I think we're all blessed to be on this planet together at the same time. There's a container that has our energy. I believe that not all the energy that's contained by people that is necessarily from the planet Earth. I think that some of us may be from other places in the galaxies around us, since to assume it's all from Earth would be a big assumption. So I take the position that while we may all look maybe planetary in how we look, we're not planetary from our energy, and that I fundamentally believe that the people in your lives that argue with you all the time, they're the planetary ones. And if you find a way to get above that, you're probably not from Earth. That your energy is actually contained from places, from stars you can't even see that haven't been discovered yet. That energetically you're from someplace else, but the container that you're blessed to be inside of, to the family you were born into because it was chosen for you. That's where your energy is, and that's where you are. But to solve some of these galactic issues, it's not only light over darkness, right? But it's love. You could find a way to bring together on a galactic level, peace, love, and understanding at the highest level. We can solve things. We can solve things not so galactic when everyone is at risk. God forbid there's an asteroid coming toward Earth. Maybe the world will get together as one to fight it, right? There's certain scientific breakthroughs where we can actually agree to disagree, but we could agree for our own safety to do certain things, to take certain actions. But to Cameron's point, right? I mean, we have systemic everything, right? All these bad things that Earthlings have figured out what to do because of our history, because of culture, and we cannot ignore the past, right? If we ignore the past, it will come back in the future. And not everyone necessarily on Earth at any moment in time has the ability and depth and breadth to fix these things, because for some people this is an empowerment of power. So you have this confluence between certain people that are not perhaps like-minded with me, who like to take action because it puts them in a position of strength, and with that creates all these other things which make life here difficult at times. I hold out hope that while we're here on this planet together, we can find a way for our energies to work in a positive manner, to bring out more peace, love, and understanding, that we could raise the frequencies up so we could communicate perhaps even silently. But while we're sleeping, we know that we're harmonizing together as a world as one, and that we can manifest a destiny for all of us where we end up with more love in this world than hate, and more cooperation than ever before possible, and to just harmonize and make the world a better place by setting the intention to make the world a better place. But we need that, right? For people who just get by, for people who don't take initiative, the world may not change for them, but it can change for everyone else. We just have to care to. And collectively, if we if we were to do a global meditation at a certain moment in time, we can shift the energy of the world. It's magical. It's happened before. We can do it. So but requires, it's not passive, it's an active activity to activate the energy in the containers of all 8 billion people at once. And then, of course, you have the energy of the people that are not seen, that are also here without a container. And we can do magical things. People have acknowledged for a very long time a sense of intuition, a sense of direction, a sense of finding things. Perhaps not everything that you found, but someone near to you helped you see it. Perhaps someone was, tapping you on your virtual shoulder while you were sleeping, but now your dream went in this direction. Now you have insights and knowledge that you otherwise never had access to. So, it's not so black and white, and it is good versus evil, light versus dark. And I forever will tell you that light will win, even if we do have darkness. But just remember, when it's cloudy and rainy outside, the sun is still shining above those clouds. And then we forever will have hope, because hope is not to be taken from any of us. It is there for us to see and for us to breathe into and just be. I have spoken.
Thank you. It's going to be sort of like Clubhouse. I have spoken. I am done. You can open up your mic now. By the way, if you guys are on Clubhouse, you can find me there too. I agree with you. When you talk about opening the light is always there. It's what we choose to look at. We can choose to look at the darkness or the light. But we also need to remember, if there's no darkness, we would never see the light. We are coming to the end. And what I'm really concerned about is that we look at the world today, and actually there's some good news. And one of you will have to tell me if it's really true. I read very briefly a headline right before coming, saying that Israel and Palestine may be coming to an agreement. Do you know anything about that, Jeff? Or
Knowing and doing are two different things. Unfortunately, when we're dealing with politics, politically, particularly in that region, there's what's said and there is what happens. And so the undercurrent.
No, I'm not getting into politics, but
No,
go
no, no.
on.
I'm just saying that 2 days ago, I heard the same story. I can tell you that friends of mine who live in the region had a quiet night or a quiet day today. I don't know anything else. Or I should say quieter than the earlier in the week. I can't say quiet completely. That does not happen. But they've had a quieter day. It's already late afternoon. It's the evening now. But Carla, I would like to believe it is true.
I'd like to believe the same.
And with that, let's have some thoughts and good thoughts, because it's our thoughts that create the energy that moves us forward into the world, that we can bring peace to the world, that we can do it through our own thinking and our own thoughts. And Jeff and I were kind of talking about that earlier. And we had a little bit of a disagreement, because when you look at the world and you look outside of the world, we don't see a lot of positivity. But if you look in, you can decide to live in your best case scenario. I've decided to do that, which puts me in my own little bubble. And if you want to join my bubble, you're more than welcome to come in. But that doesn't mean that the whole world is with me in my bubble. And I understand that. But I really believe if we all decide to live in best case scenario, that maybe we can change the world. And with that, I'm going to ask both Jeff and Cameron to speak on that point very briefly. I know Cameron, and he's probably thinking, let Jeff go first. I will allow that to happen now, but you're going to start not being on the back end anymore, Cameron.
I'll be really brief. I believe it is possible, if we set the intention to do so, that we can have a more positive outlook on our future. We just have to agree to do that. And that as a result of that, maybe other things that are not in our peripheral vision will become, I don't know, more important, or we'll shift our values so that that's possible. Look, Carla, I believe anything is possible. We just have to believe it and manifest it. And so we can do it if we want to, collectively, globally, galactically. But it's not just, it will take a person to make a difference, but then everyone else to take the actions to follow through. And I'll stop at that.
And I totally agree. And I tend to want to do a week on manifestation, maybe not next week, but in the coming weeks, because it's up to us to manifest the world as we want it and as we see it. Cameron?
I would add to Jeff's remarks by saying that in times like these, other than the small deeds that you can do, and there are those deeds that you can. Following from Jeff, I would like to just say that of the many things that we can do, small things that can make a huge difference, prayer is one that also is very important. And prayer is also transporting those frequencies and vibrations, the message of goodwill, and seeking from the higher authority, God and the Creator, help, and becoming that vessel, the conduit, to wish well for all. because to carry hate in our hearts for individuals is not helpful for the individual or for others. Hate is only for the deeds that are done, not for people who do them. Love is for all. And I feel that that prayer needs to be such that it is as huge as possible. And when you speak of world peace, it is huge, yes, and it also is as huge as you are. I am, so the world is. You are, so the world is. So you are no less than a universe. I am no less than that either. And the world itself is really a puny dot on the in the solar system. So let's pray also, in addition to the small gestures, the deeds that we can do to help all those in trouble, all those in pain, all those who are suffering, and also pray for them and have good feelings for them and wish them well.
I love that, Cameron. We need to begin just wishing wellness, wishing kindness. And if the only kind thing you do on a day is open the door for some person, that is going to help promote peace. Giving someone your smile, giving someone some laughter. All of those are things that cost you nothing, but can change the life of a person for that day. And maybe depending on where that person is, it could keep them wanting to move forward. Okay, guys, we have come to an end. I hope I'm happy we finally got on YouTube. We're on Facebook, and MindPlore is back and running and will be more powerful in days to come. I want to thank Kamran and Jeff for coming and speaking with me. Ozma had a big power failure and couldn't come. And let's just wave goodbye. No one grew anywhere yet. And we'll see you again on Tuesday with a new topic of the week. And we are going off air.